Khaleesi is coming to Westeros!
Game of Thrones is an original series on HBO produced by showrunners David Benioff and D.B. Weiss as an adaptation of George R. R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire. The series is incredibly popular, introducing fantasy into mainstream culture beyond the cinema. This is Game of Thrones and pop culture. In 2001, Peter Jackson released the first movie of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, an adaptation of J.R.R. Tolkien's books, thrusting the immensely popular books into mainstream cinema. At the same time, Warner Brothers launched Harry Potter, an adaptation of J.K. Rowling's books. The popularity of The Lord of the Rings led Peter Jackson to produce The Hobbit, a prequel trilogy to cash in on fantasy movies' popularity. While the achievements of these two series in cinema and popular culture were gigantic steps for fantasy, the genre lacked television popularity. Until Game of Thrones. In 2011, HBO premiered Game of Thrones Season 1. For those who do not know the show, HBO describes it thus: summers span decades, winters can last a lifetime, and the struggle for the Iron Throne continues. It stretches from the south, where heat breeds plots, lusts, and intrigues, to the vast and savage eastern lands, where a young queen raises an army. All the while, in the frozen north, an 800-foot wall of ice precariously protects the war-ravaged kingdom from the dark forces that lie beyond. Kings and queens, knights and renegades, liars and lords, and honest men all play the Game of Thrones. Rocketing to popularity over the course of the season, the first episode, Winter is Coming, had a total of 2.2 million views upon release. On April 12, 2015, the fifth season launched with The Wars to Come, with 8 million viewers. In Season 4, just 2 episodes before the season finale, Game of Thrones surpassed HBO's The Sopranos and became the most-watched show in HBO history. Game of Thrones ratings surpassed cable network hits like Breaking Bad.
This is not myth.
The Walking Dead.
All done the worst kinds of things just to stay alive, but we can still come back.
Mad Men.
When the public can be engaged on a level beyond Flash,
etc. Even though The Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter have taken great strides in pushing fantasy into the mainstream pop culture spotlight, no production has taken it as far as Game of Thrones has. According to IMDb, Game of Thrones has been referenced 196 times and has been featured and spoofed 24 times each respectively, on a variety of TV shows including Castle.
Okay, so what was the murder weapon? Guillotine?
A sword. Tip broke off in the body. Blood spatter indicates that the killer first lopped off the victim's hand, then took the big swing.
Single-edged blade, some kind of saber, sword. That is so Game of Thrones.
The Big Bang Theory.
It's from Game of Thrones. What do you think?
The Office.
You want to learn a really impressive second language? Try Dothraki. Win over any man in my guild. Dothraki is the native tongue of the nomadic, warmongering horse lords of Essos, as featured in the superb home box office series Game of Thrones. I throat rip.
Fourth agendak.
You throat rip.
Fourth agendi.
He, she, it throat rips.
Fourth agend.
Sports games.
Third interception thrown by Alex Carter, and that one cuts like Valyrian steel.
Is that sharp?
It's very sharp. Randall Dunn couldn't hold on to it, and it falls right into the Vale of Aaron.
Parks and Recreation.
What is wrong with you today? Did they cancel Game of Thrones?
Nothing is wrong. Just do your job. And they would never cancel Game of Thrones. It's a crossover hit. It's not just for fantasy enthusiasts. They're telling human stories in a fantasy world. Fill out the forms, please. Thank you.
and South Park.
Remember that there were 7 families fighting for control of the land of Westeros. The king of Westeros was who? Robert Baratheon, and he asked Eddard, also known as, of course, Lord Stark, to serve as Hand of the King.
And even My Little Pony Friendship is Magic.
Winter is coming.
Social media plays a huge part in pop culture for Game of Thrones. The series is known for its shocking plot points, controversial scenes, and frequent fan-favorite character killing. For the Season 5 premiere, there were a total of 176,017 posts made on social media. Hashtag Game of Thrones was trending, along with hashtag Catch Drogon, hashtag Dem Thrones, and hashtag Winter is Coming, hashtag The Wars to Come, and hashtag Valar Morghulis. But nothing shocked social media as much as Episode 9 of Season 3, infamously dubbed The Red Wedding. Book readers who knew of the event planned to secretly tape innocent show watchers and capture their reaction.
You guys knew about this? You know what? That's why this is the best show of all time.
The fandom of Game of Thrones is different when compared to other TV shows. There is a divide among fans between book readers, further subdivided into original readers and after-the-show readers, and the show watchers, affectionately referred to as the Unsullied by their book reader friends. Many book readers have been invested in the series since the first book was published in 1997. The series remains incomplete, with only 5 books out of 7 released. Despite such a long wait, many book readers protected show watchers from being spoiled as an effort to preserve the first reactions and experiences, such as the Red Wedding. Book readers have known about the Red Wedding for 13 years before it was shown on the screen in 2013. The series remaining incomplete has a positive effect, though. Book readers and show watchers have created podcasts, blogs, essays, YouTube channels, talk shows, and other media devices to discuss the series, and the theories of what's going to happen next are endless. Game of Thrones appeals to a wide range of demographics. The ratio of men and women viewers is almost exactly 1-to-1, and the series has drawn celebrity fans as well. Even President Obama and Queen Elizabeth II count themselves among the many fans of the show. And in a few cases, the president has even referenced Game of Thrones in speeches. The Queen visited one of the many sets of the show in Belfast, Northern Ireland, and met with the production team. Perhaps the tremendous popularity of Game of Thrones can be found in its premise. The show breaks tropes and serves as an antithesis of popular fantasy. The show explores themes of power, magic, religion, war, family, and politics. In Game of Thrones, the good guys don't always win. In fact, there are no established good guys or bad guys at all. Fan-favorite characters have no plot armor and can die in any moment. There is no main character, and the story follows multiple perspectives in various locations in the world of Game of Thrones. There are many criticisms against Game of Thrones by its viewers. Many think its use and invention of sexposition, that is, the exposition of important plot information through graphic sexual scenes, is inappropriate and unnecessary. Others criticize the show for its graphic display of murder, rape, and other cultural and television taboos. To this, George R.R. Martin responds, "An artist has an obligation to tell the truth. My novels are epic fantasy, but they are inspired by and grounded in history. Rape and sexual violence have been a part of every war ever fought, from the ancient Sumerians to our present day. To omit them from a narrative centered on war and power would have been fundamentally false and dishonest, and would have undermined one of the themes of the books, that the true horrors of human history derive not from orcs and dark lords, but from ourselves. We are the monsters, and the heroes too. Each of us has within himself the capacity for great good and great evil." Pop culture and society have begun to accept fantasy as a serious contender in the television, cinema, and literary world. Game of Thrones has brought refreshing originality to viewers around the world with its truthful and human storytelling, drawing viewers from all ages and groups. As it stands, Game of Thrones is set to become one of the defining television series of the decade and our society today as we know it.